There are mummies that break every rule you thought you knew about ancient Egypt. Bodies screaming silently through the millennia, golden tongues that challenge common sense, and bizarre embalming methods drawn from distant lands. In this video, we are diving into the strange and baffling world of Egyptian mummies that leave even the sharpest minds scratching their heads. Let's unwrap these mysteries together. Starting off today in our number 10 spot, we have the Screaming Mummy, also known as Unknown Man E. There is a mummy whose face looks forever trapped in a silent scream. Mouth open, head thrown back, and no one knows why. Dubbed the Screaming Mummy, this grim figure found in DB 320 is an unsettling break from the polished, elegant norm of Egyptian burial customs. He got no comforting rites, no royal pomp, just a hasty embalming and a suspiciously bare-bones setup that makes his afterlife look more like a rushed cover-up than a dignified farewell. Some think he could be Prince Pentawere, mixed up in a scandalous plot against Pharaoh Ramses III. Others wonder if he was the victim of a sinister curse or a brutal crime. Yet, after all the DNA tests and forensic scans, experts still can't say for certain what forced his body into that nightmarish pose or why he ended up lying in his tomb screaming without a sound. Next, we are talking about the mysterious KV-55 mummy. A battered coffin found in the famous Valley of the Kings shouldn't look like it was thrown together at the last minute, but that's exactly what archaeologists uncovered in the tomb KV-55. A mummy so badly decayed it's a miracle any scrap of it survived. Experts have argued for ages over who this poor soul could be. Was it Akhenaten, the controversial pharaoh who dared to worship the sun, or some lesser-known royal from the same era? Sure, DNA tests link the remains to Tutankhamun's family, but that hardly clears things up. Was the burial a deliberate insult, a desperate attempt to erase somebody's legacy, or something else entirely? All these contradicting clues, the rough treatment, and the glaring lack of the usual funerary honors are a slap in the face to what we thought we knew about how Egyptian royals were laid to rest. Next, we are talking about the Unknown Woman A. Most Egyptian mummies reflect carefully orchestrated afterlives, but Unknown Woman A looks more like the aftermath of a sudden, violent disaster. Her body, found in the same location as the Screaming Mummy, has broken bones, a haphazard embalming job, and was tucked into a coffin never meant for her. She has no carved name, no fancy amulets, just desperate linen wrappings that hint at panic and fear rather than the usual reverence. Was she a disgraced royal tossed aside in political chaos, a victim of palace intrigue who ended up in the wrong tomb at the wrong time, or some tragic figure whose name wasn't worth remembering? The mystery lingers, with every crooked limb and missing inscription pushing researchers deeper into a puzzle that they still can't solve. Next, we are talking about Nespernub. Buried for nearly 3,000 years, the mummy of the priest Nespernub carried a bizarre secret that no one caught until cutting-edge scans peeked beneath centuries-old wrappings. Instead of a neat ritual-approved burial, he ended up with a shallow, misshapen bowl cemented to his head by hardened resin. None of the known mummification customs explain this odd accessory. Was it a makeshift tool placed there to catch dripping embalming fluid that unexpectedly hardened too soon? Whatever the reason, attempts to pry it off must have failed. His skin was damaged at the back of his head, suggesting some frantic effort to remove it before the embalmers finally just gave up. They proceeded as if nothing had happened, layering the wrappings and locking this weird blunder into history, confident it would never see the light of day. Modern technology has changed that, and now experts are left scratching their own heads at this strange, unprecedented twist in ancient funerary practice. Next, we are talking about the Mother. A shocking discovery in 2021 flipped everything experts thought they knew about ancient Egyptian burials. A mummy once identified as a male priest turned out to be a pregnant woman who'd carried her unborn child for more than 2,000 years. This unexpected twist raises a swarm of unsettling mysteries. Why wasn't the fetus removed like other organs, and what did this mean for her journey into the afterlife? There's no fitting answer yet. Researchers are still struggling to make sense of the cultural, spiritual, or medical reasons behind this anomaly. Did her pregnancy grant her a unique status, or is it simply a rare oversight in the embalming process?
Number 5. the tomb of Queen Ty. In 1903, Victor Loret uncovered the tomb of Queen Ty, the wife of Imhotep III in the Valley of the Queens. Now, what makes this discovery so intriguing here is how simple and modest this tomb is, especially when you consider how powerful and influential Ty was. See, unlike other royal tombs, her burial site is honestly pretty plain, with minimal decoration, which of course raises some eyebrows. There are hardly any inscriptions or royal titles either, which has led some to speculate that her role in the royal court might have been downplayed or even just straight up hidden for some reason. It's a mystery that only adds to the tomb's allure. I keep doing this in my hands like I'm pointing, like I'm landing an airplane. Number 4, the tomb of Sethi I. In 1817, Giovanni Belzoni discovered the tomb of Sethi I, and it quickly became one of the most impressive finds in the Valley of the Kings. The tomb's scale and stunning artwork are absolutely breathtaking, but what really makes it stand out is that it's unfinished. Yeah, it's not done. Despite its grandeur, some reliefs remain incomplete, and the sarcophagus is mysteriously also missing. This has led many to wonder if the tomb was altered after Sethi's death, perhaps for reasons that we'll never fully understand, being this later in the future. Now, the unfinished details and gaps in the tomb's design really continues to spark speculation about what really happened during Sethi's burial. Was it foul play, or did nature just shake everything around? Number 3, the tomb of Ramses VIII. Discovered by Richard Lepsius in 1845, the tomb of Ramses VIII is surprisingly small and much less impressive with those of other pharaohs. With incomplete decorations and very, very few artifacts, it stands out as a real enigma. An enigma? Enigmatic, enigma, here we go. It stands out as a real mystery. Ramses VIII's reign was short and not well documented, which only makes his modest burial more mysterious. I mean, you're a king, why wouldn't they finish this? The lack of grand burial practices and the tomb's small size have led to a lot of speculation about why his resting place was so understated in the first place, leaving us to wonder what his reign was actually like and why his legacy was so quietly handled. Number 2. I'll count it down like Ched. Number 2. The tomb of Merneptah. Number 2. The tomb of Merneptah. Discovered in 1903 by Ernesto Schiaparelli, the tomb of Merneptah, son of Ramses II, stands out for its detailed inscriptions, but it's the lack of treasure that really piques our curiosity. Despite being an important pharaoh who led military campaigns, Merneptah's tomb is surprisingly modest in its offerings, hinting that it may have been rushed or poorly funded. This raises questions about his reign, with some historians speculating that his rule didn't carry the same weight as his father's. I can't fill the father's shoes, classic. Others wonder if political or religious changes during his time influenced the sparse contents, leaving his legacy hiding in mystery. And finally, number 1, the tomb of Thutmose I. Discovered in 1898 by James Quibble, the tomb of Thutmose I is one of the lesser known royal burial sites in the Valley of the Kings. See, unlike other royal tombs, Thutmose I is a small tomb and it lacks many of the features associated with a pharaoh's resting place, such as extensive decorations or lavish goods, nothing like that. The modest nature of the tomb, combined with the fact that it was heavily looted, raises questions about its significance and the political climate during his reign. A lot of unanswered questions around this. Number 10, King Tut's tomb. Discovered in 1922 by legendary Howard Carter, King Tut's tomb is easily one of the most famous archaeological finds in history. Even though it was smaller than other royal tombs, it was surprisingly untouched by grave robbers, which is pretty rare in ancient Egypt. Inside, Carter uncovered more than 5,000 treasures, including the iconic golden mask. What makes this tomb so mysterious is how well preserved that it was, considering that Tut's short reign and young age. Nothing here makes sense. His sudden demise and the rapid burial have sparked endless theories, leading many aspects of his life and legacy shrouded in mystery. Number 9, the tomb of Nefertari. Number 9, the tomb of Nefertari. I've never tatted a day in my life. Nefertari. All right, here we go, thank you. In 1904, Ernesto Schiaparelli stumbled upon the breathtaking tomb of Nefertari, the wife of Ramses II in the Valley of the Queens. Now, the tomb is famous for its stunning, well-preserved murals that showcase Nefertari's high royal status. But here's the catch. Despite the grandeur of the tomb, Nefertari herself doesn't have much of a historical footprint compared to other famous queens. The lavish artwork suggests that she was a powerful figure, yet there's a surprisingly lack of details about her and her life, or even her relationship with Ramses II. This leaves many wondering just how influential she really was in Egypt's history. Number 8, the lost tomb of Ozymandias. In 1817, Giovanni Belzoni made a fascinating discovery in the Valley of the Kings, the tomb of Ozymandias, believed to be the burial place of the legendary Ramses II, who I just mentioned. What makes this tomb stand out is its sheer scale and unique design. Unlike many other royal tombs on our list, this one features intricate carvings and reliefs that leave a lasting impression. Pun intended. But here's the catch. The tomb had already been looted long before its rediscovery, and parts of it are still missing, which of course only adds to this mystery. There's also no definitive historical record to confirm who exactly was buried here, leaving scholars to speculate about the identity of the king and the true purpose of this tomb. The uncertainty surrounding its origins and what was lost makes the tomb of Ozymandias one of the Valley of the Kings' most enigmatic finds. Also, don't steal from tombs. Like, do you want to get cursed? That's how you get cursed. That's getting cursed 101. Steal from an ancient tomb. Number 7, the Tomb of Ai. Unearthed by the legendary Howard Carter in 1907, the Tomb of Ai, the pharaoh who took the throne after King Tut, rests in the Valley of the Kings. Now, the real intrigue surrounding Ai's tomb comes from his rapid rise to power, which is still tied to the controversial circumstance of King Tut's death. Was Ai involved, or was he simply a pawn in a much larger royal drama? Is it ancient Egypt or Game of Thrones? The tomb itself is filled with stunning artifacts hinting at his considerable influence, yet the mystery deepens when you look at his short reign and the near silence in historical records about his burial and even royal connections. Why is his legacy so vague? Was he truly a legitimate ruler, or was his rise to power more complicated than we know? These unanswered questions keep Ai's tomb and his role in history firmly shrouded in mystery. Number 6, Tomb of KV5. In 1995, Ken Weeks made a jaw-dropping discovery in the Valley of the Kings. KV5, the largest tomb ever found in that area. Thought to be the final resting place of many of Ramses II's sons, this tomb is nothing short of a labyrinth, with over 100 chambers, some believed to hold the remains of up to 50 princes. That is massive. The sheer scale of the tomb is honestly mind-blowing, but what makes it even more intriguing is the fact that it was never mentioned in ancient records. Never. So why is that? The enormous number of sons and the absence of any documentation about their burials suggests that the royal family was haunted by loss and tragedy. What exactly happened to these princes, and why is so much of their story still locked away in the shadows? The mystery of KV5 is one that continues to puzzle archaeologists, leaving more questions than answers.
Next is Pompeii. Pompeii is especially notable because it offers a rare opportunity for researchers to examine an immediately preserved snapshot of Roman life. The city was buried by the eruption of Mount Vesuvius in 79 AD, which destroyed the city in a single afternoon, buried under toxic ash and rock. While horrifying, this had the beneficial effect, for us today at least, of instantly encasing the entire city, preserving it as it was with no influence from the rest of history. This is an unparalleled level of access and accuracy through a window into the past. Very few sites have this level of in situ importance. Hundreds of entombed Romans have been recovered, many in heartbreaking positions, which serve to remind us that these were all people, just like you or me, and while the ash fell, they held their loved ones, prayed, tried to hide, and in some cases tried to get in a little bit of fun before their world ended. It's considered to this day to be one of the best sources of knowledge and information on the daily life of a Roman citizen within the empire. Next is Sutton Hoo. Sutton Hoo was one of the first and most complete discoveries coming from medieval England ever discovered, especially in 1937 when it was initially uncovered. The site consists of two large burial mounds from the Anglo-Saxon period, each of which is a ship burial, where a large warship was dragged ashore and filled with graved goods and the deceased before it was then buried under a mountain of dirt. This dirt burial allowed these sites to remain untouched for 1,300 years, preserving their contents shockingly well. Inside were numerous fascinating and highly ornate artifacts, many of which were made of finely worked gold and other precious metals and stones. This exquisite find of hundreds of artifacts and almost entirely preserved ships was actually discovered by an amateur archaeologist, Basil Brown, who did an exceptional job of excavating and preserving the site until it was taken over by professional archaeologists from nearby universities. To this day, excavation continues as more and more details about the East Anglian Anglo-Saxons and their time in Britain is revealed. Next are the Dead Sea Scrolls. The Dead Sea Scrolls are a collection of ancient scrolls discovered in the West Bank before it was invaded and occupied. The scrolls are incredibly critical pieces of history, which reveal a significant amount about what life was like 23 to 1900 years ago for the people of the Levant. Much of this has been critical to our understanding of Jewish and Middle Eastern history and has given a great insight into the past of the Levant. Hundreds of scrolls were recovered, and yet only a few of them have been able to be deciphered. Many of these scrolls spent centuries in the salt of the Dead Sea, and they have aged considerably over the millennia. Many of them are simply too fragile to handle or even unravel, and so instead, researchers are developing new techniques and technologies which X-ray the scrolls and analyze the patterns of ink pigmentation along with numerous other details which, when put into a computer program, can be formed into a 3D render of the scroll, which can then be digitally unraveled and read. This has only happened for a few scrolls, but is very promising and will possibly lead to even more formally unreadable scrolls becoming founts of historical knowledge. Next is the Combat Gulf. During a routine pollution survey in the Gulf of Combat, researchers stumbled upon the remains of an ancient city, which was a surprising find. Using sonar technology, they detected geometric shapes beneath the sea's floor, revealing eventually a vast city complex covering about 24 square kilometers. This remarkable discovery could change our understanding of history as we know it, with some claims that it predates the Bronze Age Indus Valley civilization, previously thought to be the oldest urban culture. However, skepticism remains. While many agree the site appears man-made, questions about its age and the artifacts found still persist. The area is challenging due to heavy tidal movements that could damage the site and mix in artifacts from elsewhere. Yet, many researchers believe this is indeed an ancient city lost beneath the waves, with human remains and numerous artifacts suggesting that it was quickly submerged, possibly in a catastrophic flood. Some have since speculated that the Indus River Valley civilization, located nearby on the same subcontinent, may have actually descended from the Combat civilization, carrying tales of the flood that evolved into myths across numerous subsequent cultures. Up first is Ötzi. Ötzi is a Neolithic mummy, a natural mummy, so called because his embalming process was not intentional. It was the arid and cold weather of the extreme altitude of the Tyrolean mountains where he passed which was responsible for this mummification, and it was so complete that he was preserved as he fell for more than 5,000 years. Due to this exquisite level of preservation, there are numerous fascinating details that were discovered. Ötzi, for example, was covered in tattoos, but these were found to be medicinal tattoos, hash lines and marks made over old injuries, the pain of the tattoo helping to mask the pain of the injury. Ötzi was about 45 when he passed, having lived a hard life and already grizzled by the hard world he lived in, and he carried numerous fascinating artifacts which eventually helped us unravel the mystery of his passing. Thanks to the analysis of his stomach contents and the pollen therein, we've been able to map out his path through the elevation of the mountains. It seems that Ötzi was actually driven into the mountains, forced to flee for his life. He had eaten 2 and 8 hours before his passing, and had eaten the meals at different altitudes, showing that he was forced to continue marching through the mountains. We now know that he initially descended into the valley, worked on his tools, and was there accosted. He suffered a defensive wound to the palm of his hand as he tried to block the blade of a stone implement, managing to escape his pursuers, and then worked on repairing his arrows. Then something happened which drove him even farther into the mountains. Likely as he fled for his life, he would be hit in the back with a stone-tipped arrow at high altitude, which eventually ended his life. But Ötzi wasn't robbed. He had a very valuable and very rare copper adze with him, and yet none of his belongings, even the fine tools, were taken. This likely means that whoever ended him knew him, wanted to do him harm, and chased him into the Tyrolean mountains with the pure intention of ending his life. But why? To this day, the mystery slowly unravels as we make greater discoveries about the life of Neolithic humans in southern Europe. Next is the Rosetta Stone. Perhaps the single most critical and influential discovery in the history of Egyptology, the Rosetta Stone was the key which unlocked the Egyptian written languages, allowing researchers to finally translate hieroglyphics hieroglyphics, and Demotic script. The Rosetta Stone is one of numerous stones carved on the command of King Ptolemy V, containing a decree which established a divine cult of their leader, worshipping the young king as a new god. But the decree itself has taken a backseat in terms of the influence and importance of the way in which the decree was carved. The stele is comprised of 3 large paragraphs, each saying the same concepts and words but in slightly different translations. The fact that the same message was written almost word for word in 3 different languages on the same stone allowed researchers to use their knowledge of ancient Greek to then translate the Egyptian languages left behind. This opened up the possibility for researchers to actually understand the vast amounts of writing all around the ancient Egyptian empire. It was so critical to our understanding of the ancient Egyptian language that to this day, the phrase Rosetta Stone means anything which unlocks a significant discovery or paradigm shift. The discoveries of the Great Necropolis of Saqqara and numerous other sites would mean far less if we didn't know how to translate the writings that surrounded them.
In an ancient Egyptian palace courtyard, archaeologists unearthed a pile of hands. Human hands. Severed, buried, arranged. Discovered at the site of Avaris, a former capital in Egypt, the 3,600-year-old find revealed at least 16 right hands buried in pits. All belonged to adult males, likely captives or enemies. Ancient records suggest warriors would present severed hands to Egyptian rulers in exchange for gold. This disturbing form of trophy taking was both symbolic and transactional, stripping enemies of their power while enriching the victors. The fact that these hands were neatly buried in the palace courtyard adds a level of calculated cruelty to the practice. They were all strong, male, and buried with their heads between their legs. Archaeologists in York uncovered over 80 skeletons, most without their heads, in what is believed to be a Roman-era cemetery for gladiators or condemned prisoners. Many showed signs of healed battle wounds and severe trauma. Some skulls bore bite marks, possibly from animals in the arena. The decapitation appears ritualized, with skulls placed between the knees or at the feet, suggesting that this was more than an execution. It was a performance of power, dominance, and final humiliation. When they broke into a sealed tunnel beneath the Pyramid of the Moon, archaeologists weren't prepared for what they found. Inside, they discovered ritual chambers filled with animal remains, obsidian blades, and the bound corpses of decapitated humans. Teotihuacan, one of the greatest cities of ancient Mesoamerica, held dark secrets beneath its towering pyramids. The sacrifices here were often meant to consecrate sacred spaces or connect with the underworld. In one burial, researchers found 4 individuals with their hands tied and skulls crushed, deliberately arranged alongside offerings like jaguar skeletons. The sheer scale of violence stunned even those who had studied human sacrifices for decades. Bones cracked, flesh stripped clean, burn marks in the fire pit. This wasn't just a meal, this was human consumption. Archaeologists examining ancient ancestral Puebloan sites uncovered signs of people eating dating back over 900 years. At sites like Cowboy Wash in Colorado, human bones showed cut marks, broken skulls, and evidence of being boiled or roasted. Some skulls were even turned into bowls. While it's debated whether this was a survival tactic during famine or a form of ritualized terror, the findings were so disturbing that even scientists had to stop and question the moral lines of past societies. One researcher called it ritualized psychosis. Crucifixion was thought to leave no trace until archaeologists dug into a burial cave near Jerusalem. In 1968, a limestone tomb revealed the only known physical evidence of Roman crucifixion, a heel bone pierced by a large iron nail. The man had been crucified in the 1st century AD. The nail was bent, possibly hitting a knot in the wood, making removal impossible. This meant his body was buried with it still embedded in his bone. The discovery confirmed that crucifixion was even more gruesome than once thought and left a very chilling mark on history. Deep inside of a cave in Mexico, archaeologists discovered what looked like the aftermath of an ancient massacre. Known as the Blood Cave, this sacred Maya site was littered with human remains, bones scattered around ceremonial altars, smeared with traces of iron-rich pigment that resembled blood. Experts believe this was a hidden ritual site where sacrifices were made to appease Cha, the Maya rain god. The remains suggested entire families were slaughtered in desperate times, possibly during droughts. The eerie stillness of the cave combined with the gruesome scene left archaeologists deeply unsettled. It looked like they died in an instant. People frozen mid-run, their skeletons sprawled across the ancient city. Mohenjo-Daro, one of the most advanced cities of the Indus Valley civilization, holds one of archaeology's most disturbing puzzles. Dozens of skeletons were found lying face down in the streets as if something catastrophic struck without warning. The bodies showed no signs of trauma, but unusually high levels of radiation were detected in the area. This sparked wild theories, including an ancient nuclear blast. While mainstream science points to more natural causes, no consensus has been reached. Whatever happened, it was fast and final. They weren't buried, they were posed, in rows with cups in their hands like a twisted final party. In the Royal Cemetery of archaeologists found burial pits dating back to 2500 BC filled with the remains of soldiers, musicians, and attendants. Many were positioned in perfect formation, wearing elaborate jewelry, holding instruments or drinking vessels. For decades it was believed these people voluntarily drank poison to accompany their king or queen into the afterlife, but modern analysis suggests a darker truth. They may have been drugged and then killed. The idea of mass voluntary death now looks more like a carefully staged ritual execution. They were found face down in peat bogs, skin still intact, hair preserved, hands bound, and nobody knew who they were. Known as bog bodies, these incredibly preserved corpses from the Iron Age were discovered across northern Europe from Denmark to Ireland. One of the most disturbing is the Tulland man, who looked almost peaceful until you see the noose around his neck. Many of the bodies had their lives brutally taken, then dumped in the acidic bogs. These were not accidental deaths. Experts believe they were sacrifices to the gods or executions for crimes lost to time. It's like stumbling into a 2,000-year-old murder mystery. Their mouths were frozen in terror, eyes open, arms contorted in agony. These weren't peaceful deaths. The mummies of Guanajuato, found in a crypt beneath the Mexican city, are believed to have died during a 19th century cholera outbreak, but some experts theorize many were buried alive. Due to poor medical knowledge at the time, people presumed dead may have simply been unconscious. When their bodies were later exhumed, still in twisted positions of panic, it led to the belief that they woke up 6 feet under. These accidental mummies are a grim reminder of how terrifying death could be, even in relatively recent times. That would be an absolute nightmare. That's so scary, being buried alive. Ooh. That movie, Buried? Ooh. Nightmare. So nightmare. Oh my god. In our number 5 spot today we have the Antikythera mechanism. The Antikythera mechanism is an ancient Greek artifact discovered in 1901 by a group of sponge divers off of the coast of the island of Antikythera. The device, which is believed to date back to the 2nd or 1st century BCE, is a very complex mechanism made up of gears and cogs, and it is thought to have been used to predict astronomical events and the cycles of the solar and lunar calendars. What makes this mechanism so mysterious is its advanced technology and the fact that nothing else like it has been discovered from the same time period. The device is believed to have been incredibly sophisticated for its time, and its level of complexity was not achieved again until the development of similar technology during the Renaissance, over 1,000 years later. The mechanism is also mysterious because its purpose and origin are still not fully understood. Despite extensive research and analysis, there is still much that remains unknown about the device, including who built it and how it was used. The Antikythera mechanism remains a fascinating artifact, and it continues to capture the imagination of scientists, historians, and just the general public. In our number 4 spot today we have the Voynich manuscript. The Voynich manuscript is a very mysterious book that dates back to the 15th century, written in an unknown script and illustrated with strange drawings of plants, animals, and astrological symbols. The manuscript is named after Wilfrid Voynich, a rare book dealer who acquired the book in 1912. What makes the Voynich manuscript so mysterious is the fact that no one has been able to decipher its contents or identify the language it is written in. The strange drawings and symbols have baffled scholars for centuries, and many theories have been proposed as to its purpose and origin. Some believe that the manuscript is a secret code or cipher, while others speculate that it is a lost alchemaic text or an early form of cryptography. Despite extensive efforts to decipher the manuscript, its secrets remain unsolved, and it continues to be a source of fascination and speculation for scholars and enthusiasts alike. The Voynich manuscript is a testament to the enduring power of mystery and intrigue, and it serves as a reminder of the vastness and complexity of human knowledge and understanding. Maybe this book that we have is holding on to some of the most important secrets that have just been lost to time. In our number 3 spot today, we have the works of old men. The works of old men are structures that were first observed from the air by a British pilot in 1927, and they are located near the Azraq Oasis in Jordan. There are hundreds of these wheel-like structures that are over 80 feet wide, some even as large as 200 feet. These huge structures have been dated back so far that they might just be the oldest man-made creations that we have ever found. While this is all amazing, we have absolutely no idea what they are or why they were created. The theories range from things like sun tracking to ceremonies to some sort of spiritual relevance, but we really just aren't sure. While things like this are incredible finds, and it's amazing that some of the first man-made things still exist on our Earth, it is insane how we have no idea what they are or how to use them, and unfortunately, especially because of the fact that it's been thousands and thousands of years, it's most likely that the mysteries surrounding them are totally lost with the past. In our number 2 spot today, we have the Joppa stones. These stones were found by archaeologists in China. There were hundreds of discs made of stone that were found under a ton of dust inside of a cave. The notable thing about these discs is that they resemble phonography records with a hole in the center that leads into a spiral groove. These stones are at least 10,000 years old, and the groove in them is made up of super small hieroglyphics. Here's the kicker though, these hieroglyphics were deciphered and found to have stories of spaceships crashing into mountains. These spaceships were apparently being flown by what was called Droppa. After this discovery, the researcher who found it was ridiculed as people believed it was ridiculous, but years later some Russian researchers asked for a few of the stones to examine. Upon the Russian examination, they found some sort of extraordinary vibration or hum coming from the stones. After this, research on the stones either stopped or has just been hidden from the public. Finally, in our number 1 spot today, we have the Indus Valley Script. This is an ancient writing system that was used by the Indus Valley Civilization, one of the earliest known civilizations in the world. The script is believed to have been in use from sometime around 2600 to 1900 BCE, and it is one of the few ancient scripts that has yet to be deciphered. The Indus Valley script consists of over 400 different symbols, which have been found on seals, pottery, and other artifacts from the civilization. Despite numerous attempts to decipher the script, researchers have been unable to identify the language or meaning behind the symbols. The mysterious nature of the Indus Valley script has led to much speculation about the civilization that created it. Some researchers believe that the symbols may have been used for religious or ritual purposes, while others suggest that they may have been used for trade or administration. Regardless of their purpose, the symbols remain a fascinating mystery of the ancient world, and their true meaning may never be fully understood. Starting off this list at our number 10 spot, we have the crystal skulls. The ancient crystal skulls found in Mexico and Central America are a group of pre-Columbian artifacts that are believed to be over 1,000 years old. These skulls are made out of clear or milky quartz and are intricately carved to resemble human skulls. Despite being discovered in the 19th and 20th centuries, their true origin and purpose remains a mystery. According to legend, the crystal skulls were created by the Maya or the Aztecs and are said to possess magical powers that can heal or grant spiritual enlightenment to those who come in contact with them. Some people believe that the crystal skulls are extraterrestrial in origin and that that they hold the key to unlocking the secrets of the universe. Many theories have been put forth over the years about the purpose and significance of the crystal skulls. Some researchers believe that they were used for religious or ceremonial purposes, while others speculate that they may have been used for divination, or even as tools for communication with otherworldly beings. Despite decades of research and study, the true origins and purpose of the crystal skulls remain shrouded in mystery. In our number 9 spot today, we have Linear A. Linear A is an undeciphered script used by the Minoan civilization between 1800 and 1450 BCE. The script was first discovered in 1900 by British archaeologist Arthur Evans and was used to write the Minoan language, which is also still largely unknown. Linear A is composed of over 100 different signs, including pictograms and ideograms, but it is believed to be a syllabic script, meaning that each sign represents a syllable or sound. Despite numerous attempts by researchers to decipher the script, its meaning and purpose remains a mystery. The mystery surrounding Linear A is compounded by the fact that the Minoan civilization itself is shrouded in mystery, with little known about its social structure, economy, or religious practices. The decipherment of Linear A could potentially shed light on these enigmatic aspects of Minoan culture, but for now the script remains one of the greatest unsolved mysteries of the ancient world. In our number 8 spot today, we have the Tartaria tablets. These are a set of 3 clay tablets discovered in 1961 in Romania, dating back to the Neolithic era around 5300 BCE. The tablets contain a series of symbols that are thought to be the oldest form of writing in Europe. While there is still much debate about the meaning of the symbols and whether they constitute as a true writing system, many researchers believe that they represent a form of proto-writing or proto-cuneiform. The tablets have caused controversy in the archaeological community, with some experts questioning their authenticity and others arguing that they represent a significant discovery that could change our understanding of early human communication. Despite their importance, the Tartaria tablets remain largely shrouded in mystery, and their true meaning and purpose may never be fully understood. In our number 7 spot today, we have the stone spheres from Costa Rica. These ancient stone balls found in Costa Rica are a collection of nearly perfect spherical stones ranging in size from a few centimeters to over 2 meters in diameter. These stone balls were created by the Dequise culture between 700 and 1530 CE, and they were discovered in southern Costa Rica in the 1930s. They have since become an archaeological mystery, with many unanswered questions about their origins, purpose, or how they were made. One of the biggest mysteries surrounding the stone balls is how they were created. The spheres are made of granite and other hard stones, and they were perfectly shaped without the use of any modern tools or technology. Some have suggested that they were made using some sort of unknown technique, or that they were created with the help of extraterrestrial technology. Another mystery surrounding the stone balls is their purpose. Some believe that they were used as part of a game, while others argue that they had a more practical use, such as astronomical observations or as a status symbol. However, no definitive answers have ever been found. The stone balls have also raised questions about the Dequise culture itself. Despite their impressive creations, very little is known about the people and their language and written records, which have not survived. This lack of knowledge has made it difficult to fully understand the significance of the stone balls and their role in the culture. In our number 6 spot today, we have the Piri-Reis map. The Piri-Reis map is a world map created by Ottoman admiral and cartographer Piri-Reis in 1513. The map is notable for its accurate representation of South America and Antarctica, which were not officially discovered until centuries later. Of course, this means that what has puzzled researchers is the source of his knowledge. One theory is that Piri may have had access to ancient maps that are no longer in existence, such as the Library of Alexandria, which was destroyed in a fire in the 1st century BCE. Others speculate that he may have had contact with extraterrestrial beings who provided him with advanced knowledge of geography and cartography. What makes the Piri-Reis map even more mysterious is the presence of features that are not visible in modern maps. For example, the map includes a land bridge between South America and Antarctica, which has been confirmed by modern satellite imagery. However, this land bridge was only discovered by modern science in the 20th century. Another mystery surrounding the Piri-Reis map is the presence of a series of markings and symbols that appear to depict astronomical and astrological data. Some researchers believe that these symbols may have been used for navigation or even to track the movement of the stars. Despite decades of research and study, the true source of Piri-Reis's knowledge and the purpose of the markings on the map remain a mystery, making it one of the most enigmatic ancient artifacts to this day.
In 2012, in the small village of Bergheim, France, archaeologists found an ancient pit filled with human bones, specifically arms, hands, and fingers. This pit, known as Pit 157, is about 5 feet wide and 6.5 feet deep, and it dates back nearly 6,000 years. The excavation began when an archaeological company was conducting surveys ahead of construction work in the area. While exploring a 5-acre site filled with ancient storage pits called silos, they discovered a total of 60 silos, 14 of which contained human bones. Pit 157 stood out because it was nearly filled with human remains. Unlike the others, which were mostly empty or had different types of artifacts, the bones found in the pit included at least 7 upper limbs from different people. Shortly after these limbs were discarded, the bodies of 7 other individuals were also thrown into the pit. As for exactly what happened here, that's a mystery. Who killed these people? Why were their arms removed? Unfortunately, the answers to those questions have been lost to time. Not only was the Krakatoa volcano eruption of 1883 incredibly deadly, it also produced the loudest sound ever heard by human ears. People 3,000 miles away described it sounding like cannon fire. Here's a piece of audio recording of what it likely would have sounded like, not that we can mimic the actual intensity. The eruption began on May 20th and continued until October 21st. The most catastrophic moment, though, came on August 27th, when over 70% of the island and surrounding areas were obliterated. The eruption claimed at least 36,417 lives, mostly due to the tsunamis that it triggered. The explosive force was so great that it caused waves up to 120 feet high, devastating coastal towns and changing some landscapes permanently. The consequences extended far beyond Indonesia. The ash cloud affected weather patterns worldwide. The creepiest part, though, are the stories that surfaced in the months and years following this eruption. Large fields of pumice, a lightweight volcanic rock, floated across the Indian Ocean, and many of these pumice rafts carried human skeletons. One story goes that in July of 1884, students at a mission school in Zanzibar playing at the beach discovered black volcanic stones washing ashore. As they went to get a closer look, they were horrified to find human bones mixed in among the stones. Turned out skeletons had been washing up along the southeastern coast of Africa for almost a year after the eruption. In 2016, archaeologists excavating an ancient Greek cemetery discovered the remains of at least 80 skeletons found in a mass grave. These skeletons date back to between the 8th and 5th century BCE and were shackled by iron cuffs around their wrists. It looked like they'd been victims of a mass execution. The site is part of the Phalarion Delta Necropolis, an ancient burial ground that was uncovered during construction for a new National Opera House and library in downtown Athens. The head of the excavation stated at the time that they were, quote, executed, all in the same manner, but that they were buried with respect. So the question is, who were these folks? Why were they taken out, and why were they buried with such care? Most of the skeletons belonged to very young people who appeared to be in good health at the time of their deaths as well. Is this a death metal album cover, or is this an actual archaeological find? Well, you clicked the video, you know the answer. Yes, this is a real wall of human skulls constructed by the ancient Aztecs. Archaeologists from Mexico's National Institute of Anthropology and History came across a tower filled with 119 human skulls while restoring a building on the site of the Aztec capital, Tenochtitlan. This tower is believed to be one of the 7 that once stood in this ancient city, located near the ruins of the Templo Mayor, a religious center dedicated to the Aztec gods of war and reign. Researchers first thought the skulls belonged mainly to defeated male warriors, but more recent analysis revealed that some of these skulls belonged to women and youths as well. Archaeologist Barrera Rodriguez said that while some of the skulls may have belonged to warriors, others could have been from people used in sacrificial ceremonies. In Aztec culture, human sacrifices were viewed as necessary acts to sustain the gods and, by extension, protect the universe itself. Rukpind Lake in the Himalayas of India has a pretty ominous nickname. It's often referred to as Skeleton Lake, and that's because, for a brief period during the summer, the frozen surface of the lake melts, revealing hundreds of human skeletons lying at the bottom. The skeletons were first reported in the 19th century, but gained more attention when a game reserve ranger came across the remains again in 1942. At the time, the belief was that the skeletons belonged to Japanese soldiers, but it turned out the remains were much older. In 2004, it was discovered that these bones dated back to around 850 CE and belonged to two distinct groups of people. Most likely they were killed by a severe hailstorm, as analysis showed that a lot of them had suffered blunt force trauma to their upper bodies. Well, with all that said, I've been your host James, and I'll catch you, yes you specifically, in the next video. How wild does this look? This is the skeleton of a prehistoric man that's grown into the cave where he died. Gnarly. He was later dubbed the Altamura Man, but who was he? Well, the Altamura Man is actually the most complete Neanderthal fossil ever discovered. In 1993, cave explorers came across the bones in the Lammalunga cave near Altamura, Italy. They found an upside-down human skull embedded in rock, along with many other bones. The skull was covered in shiny mineral deposits known as coralloid. This gave them some indication of how old the remains were. Scientists believe the Altamura Man fell into a sinkhole and got trapped. Obviously, he never managed to escape. Over time, calcium deposits in cave formations sealed his body, turning it into a kind of natural tomb. Researchers eventually concluded that the remains were about 130,000 to 172,000 years old, making this one of the oldest Neanderthal fossils ever found. Two Dutch artists, Adrie and Alphonse Kennis, reconstructed what the Altamura Man likely looked like, which was probably something like this. Jamestown, established in 1607, was England's first permanent settlement in North America. From the start, things weren't easy. The colonists battled harsh conditions, disease, and food shortages. One of the darkest periods was the winter of 1609 to 1610. Known as the starving time. During this season, many settlers couldn't find enough food, and about 75% of them died. To survive, those who lived resorted to eating whatever they could, including each other. Now, there have been all kinds of creepy and bizarre things discovered at this site over the years, but one of the most grim was in 2012, when archaeologists came across the bones of a young girl. The bones were covered in marks that had clearly been left by blades, as if she'd been cut up and eaten like a steak. And a series of other human remains were found in a kitchen cellar, mixed in with various animal bones. Most dated back to the starving time, so it was highly likely these poor folks had been eaten. Well, these folks look comfy, don't they? These are called fire mummies, human remains stored in a very specific way, a way that actually does make a lot of sense for saving space, but sounds pretty gruesome when described. The fire mummies of the Philippines, or the Kabayan mummies, are found in the mountain slopes of Kabayan in the northern Philippines, dating back as far as 2000 BCE. The mummies were created by the Ibaloy people, who would store them in caves. As for the mummification process, it would actually start while the person was still alive. Now, this wasn't a punishment kind of thing or anything like that. It would be done when someone was right on the verge of death. They'd drink a very salty beverage to prepare their body. After death, the body would be washed and positioned upright over a fire to dry out all the fluids. To further preserve the body, smoke from tobacco would be blown into the mouth to dry out the internal organs, and various herbs would be rubbed into the skin. Finally, the mummy would be crammed into a small pinewood coffin and laid to rest. It may seem kind of creepy to many of us today, imagining being crunched up in this position in death, but again, it is great for storage. You don't usually think of gladiator bones being found anywhere outside of Rome, but in 2010 an entire gladiator grave was unearthed in Britain. Excavations led by the York Archaeological Trust in 2010 uncovered 80 skeletons dating back to the 1st to 4th century CE. Most of these remains were male, robust, and taller than average. Most disturbingly, a lot of the men had their heads separated from their bodies, either having them placed in their hands or between their knees. Pretty gruesome, but it appeared as if they'd been buried with respect. Forensic analysis revealed bite marks on one skeleton, which had probably been made by a lion, tiger, or bear, another clue they'd been gladiators fighting in an arena with wild animals. A lot of the skeletons also had one arm significantly stronger than the other, a sign of intense weapons training from a very young age. The findings came from the Driffield Terrace site, where excavation had began in 2004. Dr. Michael Wysocki from the University of Central Lancashire stated, "These are internationally important discoveries. We don't have any other potential gladiator cemeteries with this level of preservation anywhere else in the world." Look at this poor fella. In 2014, archaeologists in Bulgaria found these remains at a 13th century Thracian site, the remains of a man who had been staked as a vampire. The skeleton belonged to a man who was likely in his 40s at the time, and an iron rod had been driven through his chest to prevent him from rising from the dead. His left leg had also been removed and placed beside his body, just to make sure he wouldn't be able to walk around if he did manage to de-stake himself. During the period these bones were dated, many Eastern European cultures believed that vampires were a very real danger, particularly when it was someone who died under what was deemed an unusual circumstance. So to protect the living, communities would stake bodies to make sure they wouldn't come back. This isn't the only corpse found to have been a so-called vampire burial. Far from it. Remains have been found across Bulgaria and other parts of Europe. At a site in Poland, archaeologists found remains of people buried with a sickle placed over their throat so that they rose from the dead, they'd lob off their own heads as they sat up. And there's something very cartoony, very Looney Tunesy about that method, in a definitely more grim, macabre sort of way.
Number 5. Fiddler's Theater. Excavations in Rome revealed the remains of a Theater Neroni, a private theater used by none other than Emperor Nero himself, previously known only through texts. Now, this discovery provides a physical context to these historical accounts of Nero's reign. I thought Nero was a brat when he made a palace for his horse, but his own private theater? Imagine doing an entire show for one person. How awkward is that? Although I am doing that right now with producer Chris. It's not that awkward, it's kind of fun, it's nice. Number 4, Israel Tomb. Looking back to the Dark Ages in Shamir Heights, northern Israel, this tomb is massive. It's made up of 400 tons of boulders and it stretches 65 feet wide. This burial chamber goes back 4,000 years. Now, it could mean that humans were part of an organized society that long ago, especially considering the art that they found on the ceiling inside said dolmen, but this is the first time that art has been documented in one of these chambers in the Middle East. That's why it's so important, and we haven't quite figured out what the ceiling carvings depict yet. So far we think arrows or anchors, but inside the actual grave there were 3 sets of human remains, so it had been used for quite a while. While excavating the ancient gravesite, archaeologists also found colored beads. Yeah, we got beads and bones. Come on in, welcome to my tomb. One of the most intriguing parts of this grave has to be the lines carved in the ceilings. All the lines connecting to one single arc. What does that mean? I'm good at video games, I want to figure this out. Number 3, the Tomb of I. Unearthed by the legendary Howard Carter, classic, he's just digging up everyone. Back in 1907, the tomb of A, the pharaoh who took the throne after King Tut, rests in the Valley of the Kings. Now, the real intrigue surrounding A's tomb comes from his rapid rise to power, which is still tied to the controversial circumstances of King Tut's passing. Was I involved in his passing at such a young age, or was he simply a pawn in this larger royal drama? That's what we hope to figure it out every time we dig one of these guys up. Now, the tomb itself is filled with stunning artifacts, hinting at his considerable influence, yet the mystery deepens when you look at his short reign and the near silence in historical records about his burial and about his royal connections. Why is his legacy so vague? Was he truly a legitimate ruler, or was his rise to power more complicated than we know? These unanswered questions keep A's tomb and his role in history covered in mystery. Number 2, oldest inscription mentioning Odin. In Denmark, a remarkable archaeological find was made with the discovery of a golden disc from the 5th century. It was part of the Vindeliv hoard. Now, this disc contains the oldest known inscription of the name of the Norse god Odin. You know, Thor's dad, Anthony Hopkins, that guy? Previously, the earliest evidence of Odin worship was dated 150 years later, making this discovery significant for understanding this pre-Viking spiritual landscape in Scandinavia. Number 1, Göbekli Tepe. This monument is not only mysterious because we don't know much about its origins or anything at all, but it also caused quite the headache for researchers because it completely rewrote the timeline of the Neolithic era. Yeah, whoops, we missed one. We missed a big one, actually. The Neolithic era was the final period of the Stone Age where early humans began the process of domestication of animals in agriculture, right? It's when we kind of upped our game. For years, researchers believed that this era is what brought people towards the process of holding rituals and creating monuments to their beliefs. However, upon discovering Göbekli Tepe, that idea was completely erased. Now this mysterious site suggests that it was the work of early hunter-gatherers that made this temple a ritualistic center. So this would have happened far before these individuals decided to create settlements and begin the agricultural revolution. So based on that timeline of human settlements and such, this makes no sense. Why did they do this? Why did they make this? Based on evidence found at this site, that mind you is 6,000 some odd years older than Stonehenge, groups of hunter-gatherers came to the site in Urfa, Turkey, around 11,500 years ago and carved out a ritualistic site out of limestone that covered the entire area. So it's believed that Göbekli Tepe was just designed as a stopping point for these early humans. It was a place to meet, hold feasts, and then, of course, depart. Now, soon enough, the desire to regularly hold these gatherings prompted the early humans to domesticate plants and animals to have a more dependable food source. So with that in mind, it's believed that these rituals are what gave way to agricultural revolution, and not the other way around. Yeah, they were the OGs. Imagine inventing agriculture. Hey, I have an idea. Number 10, King Tut's tomb. Discovered in 1922 by the legendary Howard Carter, King Tut's tomb is easily one of the most famous archaeological finds in history. Gotta kick our list off with them. Even though it was smaller than other royal tombs at the time, sure, it was a little small, it was surprisingly untouched by grave robbers, which is pretty rare in ancient Egypt considering how much time has passed. Inside, Carter uncovered more than 5,000 treasures, including the iconic golden mask. Now, what makes this tomb so mysterious is how well preserved it was when they found it. Considering Tut's short reign and his young age, this was honestly baffling. His sudden passing and the rapid burial have sparked endless theories, leaving many aspects of his life and legacy shrouded in mystery. Number 9, Karnak stones. The impressively large collection of megalithic stones that cover the area of Karnak in France have boggled the minds of researchers for years. They're also sometimes referred to as France's Stonehenge. Not a bad title, although they are very different. The Karnak stones are a collection of 3,000 stones, which were all cut from the same rock, and they were put in place somewhere around 500 BC. Now, what confused a lot of researchers was the fact that even though these stones show alignments, dolmens, and other examples of ancient geography consistent with other sites, they really shouldn't have existed in that time period in which they were constructed. Makes no sense. Also, sounds exhausting. Scientists have been trying to decode the arrangement of the stones for years, trying to figure out what it all means, but still, they have no clue. Number 8, Drum Castle. Ancient chambers? All right, let's do this. Back in 2013, while a conservation team was working on Scotland's oldest castle, Drum Castle, they found a previously undiscovered part of the castle. It was a hidden chamber, left untouched for hundreds of years. Dr. Jonathan Clark from FAS Heritage, part of the archaeological team, he recalls window openings on the first floor level, but once he was inside the castle, wherever those rooms were, they were hidden behind bookshelves. They couldn't find it. So they unblocked the windows, took a peek in, and found a hidden medieval chamber. And also, it's important to add, it was in great condition. They hid this thing well. It even had a little toilet in there too. How cozy is that? To quote Dr. Clark himself, he says, "This adds greatly to our knowledge of how the interior of the Tower of Drum was used in the medieval period. In due course, it should contribute a greater knowledge of how 14th century towers were used in their heyday." Yeah, hidden chambers, a hidden toilet. Is this haunted? What do we think? Comment down below. Number 7, the first zoo. Long before the pyramids were even built, Egyptians were getting pretty creative, if you want to call it that. They were the first to see a petting zoo. How brave is that also? Yeah, let's just start touching animals and see what happens. Why not? 6,000 years ago, Heracleopolis was the capital of Upper Egypt during the pre-dynastic period. It was beautiful. Sitting alongside the Nile River, it was clean, everything was untouched, it was beautiful. In those days, perhaps the best way to flaunt your wealth was by getting an exotic pet. There were excavations done back in the late 19th century by English archaeologists James Quibble and Frederick Green. They were the ones who discovered that this town was thriving with over 10,000 residents. But when further studies were performed, they also found the remains of an elephant surrounded in cosmetics, with ivory bracelets and amethyst beads, really a lovely burial. Cats and dogs were also found, common pets. There's also crocodiles, again, brave owners there. Hippos, leopards, wild ox, all in the same area, and they were all carefully buried. But the broken bones suggest a bit of a cruel history there. Number 6, the Sphinx's hidden chambers. The Great Sphinx of Giza, with its lion's body and its human head, it's kind of hard to miss. It's one of the most iconic symbols of ancient Egypt. However, its purpose, its origins, and secrets are still hotly debated. Ancient texts and local legends speak of hidden chambers beneath the Sphinx's massive paws, possibly, hopefully, containing treasure, sacred texts, or even lost knowledge from a forgotten civilization. Now, despite modern exploration using advanced technology like ground-penetrating radar, these chambers still remain a mystery. No one knows what's inside. Some researchers believe the Sphinx predates the pyramids by thousands of years, pointing to an earlier, even more advanced civilization that might have left behind clues about humanity's distant past. So it's kind of important if we open this one up. Was the Sphinx a guardian, a spiritual symbol, or was it a marker for something far more significant?
Off the coast of Taiwan, a fisherman pulled up something unexpected from the seabed, part of a human-like jawbone. They named it Pengu 1, and when scientists got a look at it, they realized it didn't match any known species of ancient human. The bone was thick, the teeth oversized, clearly built for chewing through pretty tough material. The jaw didn't look like it belonged to Homo sapiens, but it also didn't fully align with Neanderthals either. And it could have been as young as 10,000 years, meaning whatever this mystery species was, it might have been around far longer than anyone would have thought. Well, scientists ran protein analysis on the remains, and it seems that it most likely came from a male Denisovan. Denisovans were an early human species we still know very little about when compared to Neanderthals, for example. Another strange thing, Denisovan fossils have mostly been found in Siberia and Tibet. Taiwan is way outside where they were thought to have lived. So this strange jawbone raised a lot of questions. There's a lot we know about the evolution of the human species, but also quite a bit that's still a mystery. In 1890, workers digging through a peat bog in Russia's Ural Mountains came across pieces of a giant wooden statue. It was eventually reassembled into a 9-foot-tall figure covered in carvings of shapes, faces, and symbols. It's called the Shigir Idol, and radiocarbon dating shows it's around 11,000 years old, older than the pyramids and older than Stonehenge. The carvings seem to follow a pattern, possibly telling a story or marking some kind of code. Of course, though, no one knows exactly what they mean. Most ancient wooden objects don't survive this long, but the swampy conditions of the bog kept it preserved. So it makes for a rare glimpse into the kind of symbolic thinking people were capable of at that time, way before we thought people were building anything this advanced. And parts of the statue seem to have been added in stages, like it was updated over time. So this is a culture that seemed to have a deeper sense of tradition than we usually think of with early humans. In 1911, miners digging through bat guano in Lovelock Cave in Nevada claimed to discover something that would make for one of the most controversial stories in archaeology. They found giant-sized human remains. Some reports claim the skeleton stood well over 7 feet tall, and that the bones matched up with old Paiute legends about red-haired giants called the Sitka, who were said to be ruthless savages that were eventually driven into the caves and burned alive by the rebelling tribes. Most of the remains haven't survived, and a lot of the original documentation has been lost as well. Some of the bones were supposedly sent to museums but were never put on display. What does still exist are artifacts like oversized sandals, one measuring 15 inches, and skulls that some claim have giant features like double rows of teeth. This kind of falls into the weird, is it real or just an urban legend kind of category. Mainstream archaeologists say the skeletons, if they actually existed at all, may have just been especially tall, maybe just over 6 feet, which would have seemed giant compared to the average height at the time. But there's still debate because of how much material went missing or was never examined properly. Even now though, people still go looking for stuff in that cave, hoping to find giant bones hidden away in some nook or cranny in the cave. Personally, I'd love to find out that giant humans used to roam North America, but for now, we'll just have to assume there was some exaggeration going on here. In Western Hungary, archaeologists dug up this massive stash of ancient bronze artifacts. There were over 900 pieces, including weapons, tools, and some weird twisted items that they couldn't really place. The hoard dates back over 3,000 years to the late Bronze Age. Why was it all left there? Well, it's still a mystery. There's no sign of a settlement or a battlefield, but these things were deliberately buried in clusters, and in some cases the metal was bent or broken, which some researchers think could have also been deliberate. That's led to the theory that all this treasure may have been part of a large-scale offering to the gods. It was clear that whoever made these things were pretty good with metal. Without anything written down though, we're left guessing. In 1908, archaeologists digging through a Minoan palace on the island of Crete found a strange clay disc. It's known as the Phaistos disc, and it's about the size of a CD, with symbols stamped into both sides in a spiral pattern. The writing isn't like anything else from the time. It doesn't match any known Minoan scripts, and no one's been able to translate it. What we do know is that the disc was made in around 1700 BCE and that the symbols weren't etched in by hand, they were stamped. That's not something you usually see until much later in history. It's the only artifact of its kind. No other object has the same writing, at least none that we've found. It's very weird. Some researchers think it might be a hymn or some type of game. Others think it's actually a forgery, but there's no strong evidence either way because it was discovered in a proper dig and it wasn't being sold or promoted, so most experts agree that it is authentic. Still, without more examples of the same script, it's basically impossible to figure out what it says or why it was made. The Shroud of Turin is a linen cloth that some believe wrapped the body of Jesus Christ after his crucifixion, bearing what looks like a faint image of a man's face and body. The big mystery here is how the image was created. Tests have dated the cloth to medieval times, around the 14th century, but the exact way the image formed on the fabric is still unexplained. It's not a painting, and there are no signs of any pigments used. Some researchers think it was created through some kind of intense heat that reacted with the cloth, leaving the ghostly image of a man behind. Few scientists have tried to recreate the thing, but it's been unsuccessful, even with modern technology. In northern Laos, thousands of massive stone jars are scattered across the landscape. Some are the size of a person, others even bigger, just sitting out in the open, spread across hillsides and valleys. Most were carved from solid rock and could have been there for at least 2,000 years, but nobody really knows why they were made in the first place. One theory is that they were part of ancient burial customs. Human remains and burial objects have been found near some of the jars, which kinda supports that idea. Still, it doesn't fully explain the scale of it all. Why go to that much effort to carve and move hundreds, maybe thousands of these things? And how did people with basic tools manage to haul stones that weigh over 10 tons without leaving any sign of how they did it? The layout doesn't make much sense either. Some jars are grouped close together, others sit completely alone, and a lot of sites haven't even been explored yet, mostly because the land is still dangerous from leftover bombs dropped during the Vietnam War. Until someone finds more evidence, the Plain of Jars remains a mystery. At the top of a mountain in western China, there's a cave with something strange sticking out of the walls. Old rust-colored tubes that look like metal pipes almost. They're also found running down toward a nearby saltwater lake. Thing is though, the area they're in is believed to be around 150,000 years old. That's way before any known civilization had the ability to build anything like this. Tests have shown the pipes are made of iron mixed with other materials, which has led to two main theories. Some scientists say they could be natural, maybe tree roots that turned to stone over time. Others aren't so sure. The pipes are smooth, round, and some are hollow. A few even branch out like a modern plumbing system that doesn't look random. There's never been a sign of people living near the site. No tools, no buildings. nothing that would explain who could have put them there. What do you think? Did these things form naturally, or were they built long before historians thought people were making things like this? In South Africa, deep inside ancient rock formations that are over 3 billion years old, miners started finding these weird little metallic spheres. Some are smooth, others have grooved lines running perfectly around the middle like they were etched with a machine. They're about the size of a golf ball and seem completely out of place for how old the rock is. Geologists say they're probably natural, maybe formed by volcanic activity or some kind of concretion process. That's when minerals and wet dirt or mud slowly gather around something like a shell or a leaf and harden over time, forming a solid lump or ball. But some of these spheres seem to be perfectly balanced, with an even density all the way through, and the lines etched into them look intentional, but they're stuck in rock that predates all known life, more complex than bacteria. There's also debate about what material they're made of. Some reports say a hard metal, others say they're just mineral deposits. That's why they're often thought of as out-of-place artifacts, something that shouldn't exist in the time or place it was found. In the remote highlands of western Bolivia, there's a massive set of perfectly straight lines etched into the ground. They stretch for hundreds of miles over hills, rivers, and valleys. They're called Sajama lines. Nobody knows who made them or how. The lines aren't carved especially deep, but they've lasted for centuries. And given how long they are, you'd think there would be bends or curves in them, but that's not the case. They seem too long and too precise to be random, but there's no sign of wheels or machinery having been involved. Some researchers think they may have had some sort of spiritual purpose, maybe used for connecting sacred places, but we don't have any written records or anything. That's just a theory.
Next, we are talking about the lion cubs. There is something downright eerie about stumbling across two perfectly mummified lion cubs dating back 2,600 years, especially when they show up in a sprawling ancient cemetery south of modern-day Cairo. Archaeologists at Saqqara recently uncovered these tiny 3-foot-long bundles wrapped in linen and tucked into ornate wooden boxes. This jaw-dropping, first-of-its-kind discovery didn't come alone. The site also revealed a bizarre menagerie of mummified wildlife, including cats, cobras, crocodiles, and even a massive scarab beetle, plus over 70 delicate cat statues crafted from wood and bronze. The fact that these cubs were prepared with the same care as human mummies raises unsettling questions. How important were these animals in Egyptian spiritual life, and what purpose did they serve in the dusty halls of the afterlife? While mummified cats are old news, complete lion mummies are almost unheard of, and the rare glimpses offered by CT scans haven't solved the puzzle of which other wild cats joined their ranks. The fact that lions once roamed Egypt and even lived in royal palaces only adds to the strangeness, teasing experts with yet another ancient mystery that refuses to be neatly explained. In our number 4 spot today, we are talking about the gold-tongued mummies. In the sands of Taposiris Magna, archaeologists unearthed a secret that left them speechless. Mummies with mouths of gold. Not golden teeth, no, but tiny, perfectly crafted tongues of pure gold resting on the lips of the dead. It's like something out of an Indiana Jones movie, right? But this is real, and it has experts scratching their heads. Was this a bizarre form of ancient bling? A way to guarantee smooth talking in the afterlife? Or maybe a dark ritual we haven't even begun to understand? These golden-tongued mummies are rewriting the rules of ancient Egyptian burial practices, and with every new discovery, the mystery only deepens. What secrets did these people take to their graves? And what else lies hidden beneath the sands of time? Next, we are talking about the tattooed mummies. A time-worn priestess with intricate tattoos etched into her leathery skin isn't just a stunning find, it's a direct challenge to everything researchers assumed about ancient body art in Egypt. These permanent symbols, once reserved for modern imaginations, have turned up on mummies like the renowned amulet, raising big questions about their purpose. Were these tattoos protective charms, markers of hidden status, or some form of spiritual medicine? Decoding the mysterious ink is definitely no easy task. The complex designs refuse to yield a clear narrative, leaving us grappling with hints of a language that's been lost beneath centuries of desert dust. Next, we are talking about the elongated skull mummies. Some Egyptian mummies exhibit unusual cranial shapes that have sparked speculation. While artificial cranial deformation was practiced in various ancient cultures, definitive evidence is scarce in Egypt, and its presence would raise more questions than answers. Something about these elongated skulls stops you dead in your tracks. Egyptian mummies whose heads don't fit the mold of what we expect from the land of Nile. Archaeologists know that in some ancient cultures, people deliberately shaped skulls to achieve certain ideals of beauty, social status, or spiritual significance, but solid proof of such customs in Egypt remains elusive. If these stretched craniums were intentional, what possessed someone to transform a human skull into such an unusual shape? If not, are we facing genetic anomalies, weird burial conditions that distorted the bones over time, or something even stranger hiding in the historical shadows? And finally, in our number 1 spot today, we have the prosthetic toe mummies. There is more to a few Egyptian mummies than dried flesh and dusty bandages. Some were buried with prosthetic body parts that rival modern craftsmanship. One striking example comes from the Theban necropolis, where archaeologists uncover a lifelike wooden and leather toe built to help its wearer walk with ease. This finely engineered artificial limb wasn't just for show, it suggests that ancient Egyptians understood complex biomechanics and tailored medical solutions long before we gave them credit for such skill. Were these high-quality prosthetics reserved for the elite, or were they more common than we might think? Each new discovery forces experts to rethink what kind of medical know-how Egyptians packed into their iconic tombs and how much there is still left to uncover.